Hey there, everybody, thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be taking a look at Paco Roca's book, Wrinkles. I got this from Fantagraphics in their Fantabucks sale. I feel like I just finished posting the videos I made from last year's Fantabucks sale, and now here we are back again with a new chunk of Fantagraphics books. In the sale last year, I really fell in love with Paco Roca's work, so I got this book, which was, I think, the only one of his from them that I don't have now. And given the cover, I'll say right away, and without reading it, but it's an old guy with all these like photos flying out of his head. So I kind of knew it was about old age. And then here you get this quote from Buddha: "The clouds do not disappear; they turn into rain." So pretty quickly, I understand that this is a book about death and dying or aging or something like that. And then the first two pages make it really explicit. And I think this is what Paco Roca is so good at: is his books usually aren't very long, but they're able to pack a lot in. And I do think there's space at the end of this book for a little bit more mental deterioration, like the impact of it. But even in this opening sequence, he picks such a good two-page sequence to introduce the idea of the book, which is that the main character is suffering from Alzheimer's. So you have here, he's in a bank trying to get a loan, and this guy's explaining to him like he can't get a loan, and he's just yelling at the guy like, I don't want a loan, I just want lunch, you know. And then they're like, you realize, okay, this is a guy that's got things mixed up. You know, he's arguing with his kid because he doesn't know where he's at, and so the family chooses to put him in a care facility, which seems a bit cruel. But having had my own grandmother go through Alzheimer's, that's definitely like what you need at that point. That's just not something that you can take care of at home forever unless you really know what you're doing. That's something that me and Tori talk about a lot, is the quality of life, because before COVID hit her and kind of took her out of her path, she wanted to be a palliative care nurse. So we talk about that a lot. So they talk about that a lot in this book. And here you have a conversation between Emilio, which is the main character, and then this character, which is like his backup man in the old person's home, Miguel. And Miguel is complaining about having to take his pills, and this old lady says, "Well, so we can live longer." And he says, "So we could suffer longer, you mean?" She says, "Oh, Miguel, don't start with that again. We live longer to get the most out of our life and to see more of our children and grandchildren. That's enough. I'm going to take a cat to take the go to the couch to take a nap until dinner." And this Miguel character has never had a wife. He's never had a family. So there's this argument in the book about what counts as quality of life, right? Like for Emilio, it's actually better for his quality of life that he do be in one of these care homes, because they have the facilities that as his condition deteriorates, he'll get the help he needs. But for Miguel, who's like an old guy and really, doesn't have anything physically or mentally wrong with him, as far as I can tell, this is kind of a poor quality of life. But it seems like he's put himself in that situation as well. So that's pretty much the book. It's just the book of Emilio slowly succumbing to the dementia, to the Alzheimer's, and seeing other people in the facility who have it. Like here, we're looking at this character and kind of worrying about that this is what's happening to him. So it's a very small, like sweet, touching little book. And moments like this is where like Paco Roca just chooses such intense little moments that he doesn't have to have a long book to get a lot of emotional impact. What's happening here is that this couple here on the couch isn't really the married couple. This woman has dementia of some sort, and this is her husband, but she's forgotten about him and has made a relationship with this character here, but he still loves her and comes and just sits and stares at them. And so this just awful, like painful little love triangle that's formed here, that one page is enough to really land the emotional weight of what it would be like to have a loved one basically lose everything about who they are. And he lands those notes perfectly. I think another really well timed, pun intended, piece here, a good use of space, is it can look like a waste of space, but in a book like this, to spend 2 pages on the clock just slowly ticking by throughout the day, and all these characters sitting in their same place, like not really doing much, just barely changing expression, is a pretty good use of space within this book, in that it really sets a sense of the tedium that your life would whittle down to when you're just stuck in the same routine all day. You can't not self-sufficient enough to go anywhere. You don't really have a lot of energy, so it's a really kind of painful in all of the sweetness for it. So I don't want to give away too much more of the book, but I did also really like here towards the end as Emilio's really, I mean, it's not giving away anything, I don't think, to say that Alzheimer's takes over and there's no beating it, but I really like this bit of drawing here where his friend's face goes from there's just a person in front of him to resolving into who that specific person is, and then going out with that face like totally getting erased altogether. I think, again, that's a very powerful visual. So I've really fallen in love with Paco Roca's work. All the stuff from Fantagraphics is great, and I don't know how much else he has that's been untranslated, but anything of Paco Roca's that comes into English, I will absolutely buy it. I think he's a real master cartoonist and a fantastic writer as well. He says a bit in here at the back. I think this is something that's consistent between all of his work as well, is that he tends to work from real life in some way. Like the Treasure of the Black Swan's a real story. This one, he's talking about going around and interviewing friends about their families and people he know, and going and doing research in a home, talking to the people that work there, getting to know some of the residents, and that those stories form together to make his story. So I think he's always really grounded in the real world. Winter of the Cartoonist is, again, grounded in the real world. It's not always necessarily historical, but I think his connection to reality and his very just adult sensibilities about life, you know, there's never any flashy thing here. Even on like a treasure hunt story, it's more about bureaucracy and politics. So I think he just has a really mature vision of what comics can be, and combines that with very simple, very sweet books and very clear and precise cartooning that makes these very easy to consume, these things that are pretty heavy otherwise. I think is a really good mix. So great artist. If you have not checked out Paco Roca's work, definitely do so. You're missing out if you've not. If you enjoy what we're doing here on the channel and you want to support us, there's two ways to do that. The first one is through our Patreon. We have two different tiers of engagement there. Those come with different kind of privileges. The first one just gets you early access to our videos. The second one gets you exclusive access to books that Sean and I are working on. Some of them are private art, and then the ability to vote and participate in our ongoing webcomic experiment, Pranede. Any of the money we get from the Patreon just helps us buy the books that we're reviewing on the channel. So we just turn that back into the community. We really appreciate that. If you want to support Sean and I, Living the Line itself, the best thing to do is to support what Sean's doing with Living the Line Publishing. So we'll go ahead and take a look at one of his projects now. The Exile by Eric Creek is a gorgeously illustrated Viking saga of revenge. Eric Creek calls it his Viking Western. It's about a guy who's been away on the warpath and is returning home to some family troubles that have to be resolved. And this is told in just this amazing, like, kind of 3-color art style that looks like old woodblock cuts or something. It's absolutely gorgeous book that you've got to pick up. Thanks for following along. Take it away, Jack.